I have to say, like, I feel very fortunate in my various experiences, you know, and I feel like as well, you know, I actually, coming from where I come from with the perspective I had, I, you know, looking back, I really valued that. Do you know what I mean? Like, and going to Oxford, and then but then the experience of Oxford I value too. Is different, but I think I'm glad to have had both. You know what I mean? To like see them, to see different sort of ways of living a little bit, and yeah. But apart from that, I think I had one period really where I maybe was really struggling. I think when I was just before I left Bristol, like and I was having this period where I was like in between jobs a little bit, and I had done a few little awful jobs, some awful, terrible jobs, I tell you, like, and I was hating life a little bit at that sort of time, you know. But like, but then even through that, I was very fortunate, and I think the thing that makes me feel most fortunate is the people in my life, really. Like, that's something that's always made me feel kind of rich, so to speak. Can we say that? Like the quality of the relationships I've had in my life, and so I've always felt like as well I have support, and I think, and I think I've also been able to ask for help if I needed help with from friends and or something like that, or family. You know what I mean? But then not everyone has that. You know what I mean? So like that, so I feel like, oh yeah, very fortunate, but I also recognize that's not necessarily the norm for a great many people.
And I've also got another question regarding your identity as well. Like you say, say you moved to Oxford because you said your mom was going and just trying to become a vicar.
Mhm.
And did your identity start to, was it something you were aware of and conscious of and thinking about when you were in Hackney versus when you move to these other places?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think so. Definitely. Like, you know, I think if I'd stayed growing up in Hackney, I'd be like, I don't know how I'd be different, but I think I'd definitely be different in some way. You know, like that. So that Oxford experience definitely changed a lot of things. Definitely changed what watered down my accent a little bit. But like yeah, because it's a different perspective as well, and I suppose like the things like people growing up there think about isn't the same as the things in Hackney. People growing up in Hackney are sort of thinking about necessarily or concerned about, you know. But but in a lot of ways, there's a lot of similarities too. You know what I mean? And there's and you know, even though you think of Oxford maybe or somewhere that's like a bit more rural and a bit more like middle to upper class or something, but actually there's all sorts of people there, all sorts of experiences, like not too dissimilar to anyone growing up in any sort of inner city area and stuff as well. Do you know what I mean? So that was interesting to see. And then, you know, there's certain things that like people don't know growing up in those areas as well, like, you know what I mean? So it's just like just because their experience is different, so that's interesting dynamic too. But yeah, sorry, what was the question again? I sort of started talking. I forgot where we were going.
That's all good.
Yeah.
Now the
That means
question
you're
is,
having fun.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I was asking about your identity and whether those
Oh
shifts
yeah.
brought it
Okay.
about.
So
That
so then yeah, I think how it formed my identity, because I did feel like a bit different to like everyone else around me, and I think but I think that encouraged me to like, I sort of saw this like, and from quite an early age, I saw this idea of trying to fit in as kind of futile, and I didn't kind of understand. I had it for a little bit, and then I was like, "What am I doing?" You know, and I think that then drove me to be quite sort of like, you know, to be my own person. You know what I mean? I thought, and like obviously, I just felt that was like the smartest thing to do and the best thing for me, and I think I've held on to that for a long time. I feel like with a lot of friendship groups as well, like because I've moved around a lot, so I've had to leave people behind all the time. So I feel like sometimes quite a lot on the periphery of a lot of my friendship groups, and many of them, and they're all over the country, you know. So like Claude's not around all the time, you know, like I'll pop up every now and again, but that's okay. And but I feel like, you know, that sort of being okay with yourself helps you to form like in yourself as well, and comfortable with who you are helps you to form better and stronger relationships. I feel like, and so I felt like that transitioning from place to place has been like, for me anyway, like quite comfortable because of that, you know. And And yeah, so I think that's how it's. And I suppose, like, you know, living in Wales as well, to again, that's a bit different again. And you know, probably not many people like me from Hackney that play rugby and things like that. I used to play a lot of rugby and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, all these different experiences of form your experience differently. And yeah, doing the art thing as well in Oxford. Obviously that was quite a big thing. And but like quite different to them when you come to London and try and maneuver in the art scene here. You know, it's like very different sort of scenario. So all these different experiences, I think like the most important thing is as well to just learn from whatever experiences you have. Obviously, there's been like quite pivotal times in my life where I've changed my mind about what I want to be and who I want to be. And that's why I've ended up with such a mixed bag of probably experiences. But even if they didn't turn out as positive as I thought they would, like you know, you learn, as long as you learn from everything, then it was worthwhile. That's definitely something I really hold on to as well. Like, you know, you can't think back and like, oh, I regret that I did that, even though that time I told you about, I was having a terrible time in Bristol, right, doing some awful jobs. Like, and going through that, you know, that helps you make better decisions going forward. I had this negative experience. I don't, you know, here's what to take from it. Here's what I learned from it. But maybe I don't want this to happen again in this sort of way. And then you can better navigate and avoid it later on, you know?
I love it. I love it. It's so captivating to obviously hear what has shaped who you are in terms of you being you know, a rich advocate, especially in the mental health and the support you've had. And as you quite clearly said, you know, not everyone gets the opportunity to have that.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that really, you know, stuck out to me as well is that when you were talking about the different, you know, transitions and lessons, and I think when it comes to that, every single stage of your life has an importance in terms of a lessons, no matter whether it's good or bad or anything like that. And it's key to kind of hold those as important coordinates to basically help you travel and maneuver through, you know, even though you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, it's definitely there. But let me not digress. What I'm obviously intrigued to find out about, you know, you being a mental health advocate, what or who specifically shaped you, especially from, you know, from a young age all the way through to, you know, um, to being who you are today?
Okay, so definitely, like, I've got to say, obviously, my parents, you know, to start off with, definitely, like, so, you know, so obviously, like, I think when people find out that your mum's a vicar, like, they imagine like quite this, some sort of strict religious background or something. And like, you know, and I suppose with some people, like, if, you know, like, you know, we have make jokes about having black parents, right, and like, you know, how strict they can be and stuff like that. So, you know, like, there was a bit of that, but actually my parents have been like pretty open-minded, like, you know, throughout my life and stuff. So this is what I mean, like, you know, like, I totally buck that sort of trend or stereotype, you know what I mean? Like, they were strict, definitely, but they were also open-minded and super supportive of different things I wanted to try. So that's the first reason as well I've been able to try so many different things. There was none of this like, what, you know, we preset notion of what I should be, of what I should become, you know what I mean? Like, explore this. Okay, you want to try this? Are you sure you want to this different thing? Yeah, okay, like, then do that. And the main thing was that, you know, the emphasis was on trying hard or whatever it is you decided you want to do, you know what I mean? Like, as long as you're actually going for it, and, you know, and like, you know, even at different times of my life. So when I was in sixth form in Oxford, I actually like initially didn't do well on my A levels at all. Like, I had to have an extra year on my A levels. So like, and I was lodging during my sixth form time as well. So my parents had moved back to London, back to Hackney, and they supported me to lodge and finish sixth form in London, because they moved back like halfway through my GCSE year, which would have been quite disruptive. Do you know what I mean? Like, leaving at the school at the age of year 10. So they supported me in staying there, finish my GCSEs. And I was like, actually, I want to stay in Oxford and do my A levels here. So, and they supported me in doing that. Like, so really, really fortunate. And then even when I had to do this extra year, which I really needed, I needed an A to like get into the unis I wanted to get into, which I got. Like, but like they supported me in that, and you know, and believed I could do it. You know what I mean? So as I said, like that really, really, I do feel very blessed and fortunate in that sense. And then I guess the mix of friends I've had growing up as well, and I feel like as well from having those two perspectives. When my parents were back in London during their 60s times, coming back to London on the weekends, seeing my peeps here, and then like going back and these very different people in Oxford and stuff. You know what I mean? But it's a good way to sort of learn and understand people, and then first going to uni in Cardiff, all sorts of new people and experiences there. And the Welsh identity is another thing again. Do you know what I mean? They're like interesting to learn and experience. Like some of the best mates even now, like they're all in Hackney too, of course, right? These days. So like, you know, everyone's here. Everyone from Oxford, everyone from Wales, and everything are down here. A few of them from Bristol as well. And and so all these different experiences, and I would say mostly people that have shaped my learning and experience, and like yeah, I think that they like inform us all the time. If you're paying attention to what's going on in people's lives, that's like, you know, it's such a big source of knowledge, you know. And I think that's really important. I think my mum is like, you know, she's that sort of person. She has really old school wisdom, you know, like, so like, you know, she'll struggle with things like, you know, I'm constantly having to do IT support for her and stuff like that. Anything sort of modern or new concept, sometimes she's like, what is this? You know what I mean? But she has this sort of old school wisdom where she sort of really understands people and sort of what they're feeling sometimes or what they're going through. And I've witnessed that, especially once you've decided to become a vicar, and you know all these situations she has to deal with, and things like when she used to work for DSS, you know, Social Security Office, and like, so I remember her talking about that experience, and like obviously dealing with people that are really going through like a hard time, you know what I mean, who might be a bit destitute and stuff like that. So I've always had a good, and they've always done things with homeless people as well. That's something my parents have always done as well, which is again interesting to sort of learn about and understand, because like you just understand how different people can end up in all sorts of situations, and you can't really take anything for granted. You know, you have all these people that like with all these different lived experience, really different. They're like, you know, so diverse how people can end up where they end up and stuff. So I think that's a really humbling thing to think about as well, and to like to acknowledge, like, you know, there's so many ways that like anything can happen to us in our lives, so we've got to be understanding of others and supportive